I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
10, 5, 4.
All right. Hello, welcome to the Chickenfoot podcast. I'm Arthur Spooner.
I'm Judah Bird.
That's Judah Birder. And this is the Chickenfoot podcast. Switching it out around on you. Whoa, what's going on? Where are we? What are we doing?
Confusing people.
All right. Now, I wanted to let Judah know that we got an email from the FCC. They told us to tone it down, but also from the FDA. Said, you know what? Keep the Chickenfoots to ourselves. So we've got two agencies on us. Fortunately for us, we don't make any money, so the IRS isn't after us. So I'm glad Judah got it. Our zero viewer hasn't got it. And let me check the comments. No comments in our emails.
No.
Oh, we got a flood of nope. All right. Starting strong with a big goose egg.
All right. Well, did you want me to? We're going to start a new segment, right?
Yeah, we're starting a new segment.
It's called We Got No Viewers.
Me. That's what we should call it. me.
That's a good idea. All right. Well, now for me. All right. What I like about this meme. Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right. First of all, you have to read the caption.
Yummy, scream, big cousin, holler. That's a
look at this picture.
Yeah, that's a big Scream fan.
Man,
that's not holler, that's echo. Echo.
I don't know if I would be more scared or less if someone like that was running after me. Dude, I'd be worried they'd fall on me.
Yeah.
Oh man. But can you imagine if he's like super quick though? It's like, holy cow.
Yeah. I don't know if he screamed. He might be out of breath.
He does kind of look like that.
Well, one thing's for sure. When you open the fridge to shut it, you're definitely going to see him before you shut it. You're going to like, holy cow, who's on there? You're going to open the fridge. You're like, who's around there? All right. That's a good meme.
Yeah, not so bad. Huh? Not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, should we go back and analyze it? Like what we're
let's analyze it.
So really what works for me is just the visual aspect of it. Like it's the fact that you expect, Scream is something that's supposed to be scary, and the surprise of like, well, that's not scary. It's kind of, it's try hard.
Yeah.
And then you have the
expectation of it is Scream is a skinny guy and it's dark, right? Mm-hmm. So it's broad daylight. So the black has no value in it. You know what I mean? That's the other thing about all the black is all you see is the mask and he comes at you and it's a surprise. And the fact that he's excuse me, I got the hiccups.
We're live right now.
Holy shoot!
We got
and then the fact that he's bigger than your expectations.
Yeah,
and I mean the way the guy's walking, anyways, it looks like
he's just kind of like
he's not going to chase you. And that's the other thing about holler. Why does that word holler make this funnier? You know what I mean?
That's a good question.
Why do you think holler? Y'all meet Scream's big cousin holler? Why does holler make that funnier?
Well, okay. Is this like, is it a cultural thing? You know, Shay Brownlee. Like I think it's it's okay for her to be saying it, but if I said something like this, might be kind of racist, don't you think? If I put this on my Facebook, it was like, y'all meet.
Well, the y'all is a Southern thing. I guess it's a African American thing, and the holler. I can see my cousins or my dad saying holler, and I can see my cousins using y'all. But so, and it's funny you're saying that. I mean, you don't know that he's African American. I mean, you really can't see. So
I just assumed because like everybody in this,
because the person sharing it and stuff like that, you just assumed, yeah. But why holler? Why does that make it funnier?
I don't know. I laughed when I read it, but I can't figure out what it is about it.
Well, one, it's a play off a scream, right?
Yeah.
So it's a play off a word scream. So you got to have something that's scream.
I know why it is.
Yeah, why?
Because you just picture a big guy saying, "Hey, wake up!"
Yeah, holler is like a big action. Like a scream is like scary, and holler is like you're just like yelling, like it's a gutter, like from your gut. You're like, hey, so that does kind of make sense why that word would be funny. So that's a good meme. That's a good meme to start out with.
Yeah. All right.
So, we got 2 new viewers. So welcome to the Chickenfoot podcast. Like, follow, and subscribe.
Quick, follow us.
And we got a thumb up for that. Jim Pickett.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Jim, good to have you.
Yeah. All right. So where we left off last time is we were talking about how to get started in comedy, right? And we initially started talking about, how difficult is it really to make a living out of comedy? And we talked a little bit about, hey, good to be here. Well, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
And chime in anytime on what you think about getting involved in the stand-up comedy. So we talked about comedy in general. So not just stand-up, but comedy writing, and the fact that it's a little more open.
Yeah.
So with it comes to like music and acting, not only to have talent, but there also has to be like a look. They're looking for a certain look. You know what I mean? With comedy, it's humor. And you could be attractive, you could be unattractive. It's more like having a theme. You know what I mean? Having like a well-rounded, complete act.
Yeah. Well, and from what I've discovered as I'm getting to know more about comedy and comedians is there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, and that's why they protect their jokes so much. It's a big deal if you steal jokes because they put so much time and effort writing, hours and hours writing, but also practicing and getting booed sometimes, just hostile audiences trying things out to really refine their set, their act.
Yeah. So
it takes a hard-working person.
Yeah, it does take a lot of hard work. So we talked about, can you make a living? And then we talked about how to get into it, and that last week we were touching on that. We didn't finish it. So the first thing, and I found this article on the artcareerproject.com, how to be a comedian. Follow these steps to become a comedian.
Okay.
So these are some of the tips they have. First tip they have is, does your humor
I still can't hear you. You know that, right? What was that? Was that on purpose? I can't hear you. You're muted. Can I hear you now?
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me? Are you muting me? You're doing it on purpose, sucker. I know it. You know, what's funny is I tried to explain to somebody why Chickenfoot. And then it just dawned on me that it's basically just Rickroll. You know? It's like getting Rickrolled.
That's kind of
There
true.
are also more venue bookers willing to give someone a chance for stand-up than to break in acting, music.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Also, we talked about open mic.
Yeah. That's a good way to get it.
My mom said, I can't hear you. Well, story of my life. You know, she never listened to me. She only listened to my brother and sister. So, so happy birthday. Actually, it's my mom's birthday today.
Happy birthday, Debbie.
She turns 35.
Oh, well, she doesn't look a day over 21.
She's on the right.
Oh.
Just kidding, Mom. All right.
Anyways, what were the real steps?
So we talked about stand-up or open mic and how just the bars will do that because just the entertaining of seeing people crash and burn as well as people who are starting out who they don't know. So that sometimes brings in a lot of views or a lot of people. So happy birthday, Aunt Deb. And my mom's like, what? And good answer. So all right. And
well,
so
we plan to do right at some point in what we're doing here, this experiment. We plan to do a little open mic night.
Yeah. Have you written any bits? Have you been working on any?
Just a little bit. No.
Do we have a little video that says that's horrible? No, we don't have a little segment of horrible jokes.
No, but you know, I mean, I do have those jokes that I bought with the with the pillow money and that we rewrote. I was thinking about doing those.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I have a few but nothing that would be appropriate. It's definitely Chickenfoot at night stuff. It's like, you know, teddies and lingerie, that kind of stuff.
Your mom's watching.
Oh, my mom's watching. I meant like teddy bears and lingeries, like, you know. All right. So the article says the first thing getting started is just being funny in general. You know, if you're a person who can make other people laugh, just honing that kind of gift, but being able to turn it into a punchline, being able to make punchlines. Okay. So, you know, just telling a funny story of something that happened is okay. But if you don't have the knack for being able to make punchlines out of something, like the holler, like the meme to the holler.
Well, being able to make it, to package it, right? Like the difference between being a funny guy and being able to have the bum ching moments in your life. Yeah.
So that's one of them, being able to get that punchline. Let me ask you, they don't really go into detail how that can happen. You're not funny. So we don't meet the first criteria. So apparently, according to my mom, we don't meet the first criteria. So we'll have to work on that one. How do you think it doesn't go into detail how to develop that skill to make a punchline?
Well, one of the things that we discovered early when we started doing any kind of like writing in this project that we're doing is right. One of the first things we discovered was in order, but the longer the buildup goes, the harder the punchline has to hit.
Yeah.
And I think timing is a huge part of that.
Mhm.
Being able to feel when knowing how hard your punchline is going to hit, how funny the last thing you say is going to be, even if you're not thinking of it as a punchline, compared to how much work you're making the people around you do.
Yeah. Yeah. So like we talked about dad jokes one podcast, and how it's the payoff is worth the buildup, because the buildup is usually very small. So it's like a quick, easy joke, and like a dad joke. One time, this is a story about my dad. So I had just finished boot camp when I was enlisted. So, and then that was it. Wait, did you cut me off with? Oh, shoot. Well, you missed the punchline. He played the story segment intro over it. So anyways, so it was in 95. And so I was sent to boot camp, and I was there over Christmas.
Okay.
Over the winter, like during winter, and it's up here at Great Lakes in Chicago, and it was cold. I mean, it was so cold that year. I remember because they have you marching everywhere, as you can imagine in boot camp. So, and no matter how cold it is, they'll have you march, right? So it was so cold that because every morning over the intercom they would tell you the uniform of the day, what you had to wear, right? And it was so cold that they told you to wear towels around your face. And they would also bus us around. So it was too cold to march. So it was cold if the Navy's like, march. You can't march, you got to drive. So my dad went to go, my dad went and my mom went to see me graduate. And it was freezing. So we went to the parking lot after the graduation, and we were leaving, and they had a few recruits who were there doing the parking, directing traffic, and it was freezing. My dad had the window open because he smokes, and so he was letting the smoke out. And one of the guys is like, "Man, dude, it's cold. I can't even feel my fingers." And my dad goes, "Oh, well, feel these." So he put his fingers out. The windows, "Here, feel these." And then we all laughed and laughed. Jim Pickett says, "Did you hear the chiropractor joke I told?"
When?
It was about a week back.
It was about a week back.
See, that one's tough because we're reading it, right? Yeah. So you see a week back. So I'm glad he put the parentheses in there.
Yeah. That's a good quick dad joke that takes very little work. Well, actually, it takes a very little upfront work. It just takes a little.
It takes the timing. The timing, he had to be on timing. Like if we drove off and then he said, "You know what I should have said was," that would have been less funny. But it takes the timing, and so you got to be able to work on something being able to click in your head where you're putting those jokes together. So dad jokes do have skill to them, I think, about timing and quickness, being able to be quick with it.
Yeah, you can't stumble around with them. You don't have any leeway because the punchlines are so weak. Well, I mean, they don't have a lot of guffaw that you have no leeway in the buildup.
Yeah, and I think what we talked about as the quadrilateral for what is funny is we talked about it has to meet culturally relative to everybody. So if it doesn't meet, if they don't culturally understand it, it's not going to land. And we talked about being some level of surprise, right? Which that's part of the dad joke is a surprise. It has to have some sort of like build up and then release. But we said those 4 things can fluctuate. Some lean on heavier on some elements, some don't. And the dad joke really doesn't do a lot of the build up other than you're like initially you're hearing them talk and you're just expecting a normal comment. So in that sense, there might be some build up. But it's the surprise and the timing and the quickness of it. Right.
Yeah.
So
and the sort of embarrassing irony of it, which is kind of like surprise, right? It's what you don't. Irony is what you don't expect, and so it's like a slow surprise.
Yeah. All right. Number 2 is study, learn, and practice. So, and we briefly touched on this last time, is that you're not really stealing material away from other people. It's kind of like what we're doing, where we're looking at why is this funny. How are they delivering it? So look at other comedians, find your style. When it comes to, well, actually that's the next one, but more or less study what makes a joke, the punchline, how to organize a joke, and kind of practice with friends. Just kind of in your head, writing it out, and just learn the craft in general. What does it mean to tell jokes? What does it mean to write jokes? What do you got to do? And so that is one. And so we covered that one last week.
What makes people laugh too, right? Like, what made people laugh back in the 50s is different than what makes people laugh now. And just kind of figuring out what is the trendy joke feeling or category that people are using, and why who's laughing and why. Study, you gotta study.
And and part of it is like we talked about, those quadrilaterals, you got to have a good grasp of that. So you got to know your audience, you know what I mean? So you got to be culturally inclined to be able to say, so like Jeff Foxworthy, he's probably not going to sell a lot of tickets in San Francisco. Bill Maher, he might not be doing well in Montgomery, Alabama. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he's got to know his audience. They've got to know their audience. But then at the same time, once you begin to get established, your audience is also drawn to you. So I think once you get to that level, no matter where you go, you could probably pull a percentage of people there, who would travel to come see you. But your audience, knowing, being able to write, hone that skill of writing, and words, being good with words. I think you said you had all the best words. Who was that? Was that you who said that? You have all the best words. So Judah's got all the best words.
Jim says,
Jim, we've become desensitized to what was considered funny in the 50s and before because of our saturation.
Because of oversaturation. Yeah. There's like things that you start to hear and it's just like, it's not funny. Now there are times though that generations will, the oversaturation will be nullified by the fact that time just passes and the new generations haven't heard it before. It's like you can bring up old jokes and new generations will go, oh, that's funny. Where'd you get that? Well, it's a very old joke.
Well, is it culturally relative? You know what I mean? So some of them could be universal, like spouses arguing or kids and adults, I remember we were in Toccoa Falls and I was taking a class. It was Old Testament, I think it was, with Sprinkle, Dr. Sprinkle. And he talked about like some of the older just texts, like the Sumerian text, all these kind of texts in the area at the time. And he brought up one of about a text about a father who was concerned about their son wasn't making a career move, and he was afraid that someone's going to make it. And he was saying, like, even back then, the same
And how many years
concerns.
ago was that?
Yeah, thousands of
was like-
years.
Yeah.
And that parents still had concerns for their kids. And so some things are going to be almost culturally universal to all humans. You know what I mean? When it comes to emotions, bodily functions, maybe certain thoughts, relationships, but then some things are going to be unique, you know?
Yeah.
So, so it's all going to be relative, but it's also going to change. And so that's, I was thinking some movies, like, do you remember Shallow Hal?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So now that movie would never come out. That movie would never come out. Never. Even though at the end they're trying to say, it's the person inside and not the appearance, but still it would not make it in the theaters. It would be like canceled culture. It would even go further. It would be Back in Time canceled.
They would bury it. Yeah.
It would be Going Back in Time Machine canceled. That's how bad it would be. So,
one thing I would like to look into. You still got some steps left, right?
One more. So, what are you looking into?
I'll put a pin in it. But one thing I think we should look at is children cartoons and why they're funny. So looking at the modern zeitgeist of what's humorous to kids these days.
Okay, yeah, kids these days. Am I right? And then the last one is hone your craft.
Okay.
Do open mics. Build your portfolio. Really work out that material in front of audience. Working in new material, sticking with some of the good stuff. And not only that, but the order in which you put material also is relevant. So if you start out with your strongest stuff, sometimes it takes a while to get the audience into it. So some stuff, it takes a while for the audience to get used to your style. And once they're used to your rhythm, then you could do certain jokes. You have the freedom to kind of play around, and they culturally understand you're being sarcastic and that you're using sarcasm and hyperbole, and they can see your style, so they will be able to get into some of the things that you're doing.
Yeah, knowing where to put things. Jim says our culture has changed. The fool can no longer speak truth to the king. What do you mean by that? That's interesting, Jim. The fool can no longer speak truth to king.
It's funny that he brings. I just had this conversation with somebody the other day, and I was talking about Borat, Sacha Baron Cohen, and he went to a performing school in France, and this is not a joke. It's actually a clown college. It's like a real clown college, but it's like a really expensive school, and they basically are the modern gestures. That's where he learned his technique.
Really?
So what he does is he makes characters to be put in certain situations to elicit more the response of other people, to bring out their biases, and then to kind of play with their biases and their concept and their so he might say things like in the first Borat movie where they have him, he's down in Texas and he's singing the national anthem, and this is during the Iraq War, and Borat has that broken up speech pattern of being a foreigner. So he's like, and I support because it was the war on terror. And so he goes, I support your war of terror. And everybody's like cheering but he's saying war of terror. And they're just like, we'll let that slide. Carl Jung, comedian, the fool is often only way to speak truth to power, the king. Yeah.
Like,
I think,
usually.
Yeah. Well, I think some of it has to do with, freedom of speech and how comedians really have that unique place today where they can kind of make fun of power, despite some of the stuff going on. Well, this was a great show. I mean, we had a lot of comments, more comments. Most of them were for my mom's birthday, but
we really appreciate you joining in. You got me.
We do.
You got me.
Thanks.
What?